Hello and welcome to Prague Walks, where we take different walks around Prague. We're starting at the top of Lipanská, and we're going to make our way down through Lower Žižkov and through the tunnel to Karlín and across the new bridge to Holešovice. Lower Žižkov possesses a historical background rooted in its gradual urbanization. This neighborhood was initially an autonomous village, but eventually merged with Prague, evolving into an urban center. During the 19th century, Lower Žižkov experienced industrialization, as was typical of many areas of Prague. Factories and textile mills were established, which, in turn, attracted a working-class populace. In the early 20th century, Lower Žižkov gained recognition for its connection to the arts. Several notable artists and writers, although not exclusively residing within the district, were associated with Prague. Bohumil Hrabal, a celebrated Czech writer known for his experimental prose, lived in Žižkov briefly and drew inspiration from the everyday life of Prague's working-class neighborhood in his works. In recent times, Lower Žižkov has continued to appeal to artists due to its affordable housing and nightlife. The district remains a canvas for contemporary artists and musicians who have found inspiration in the character of this district. In terms of urban development, Lower Žižkov is notable for its sídliště, or housing schemes. These housing schemes emerged as part of the broader urban planning efforts during the mid-20th century. The intent was to address the housing shortage and provide affordable living spaces for a growing population. The sídliště in Lower Žižkov, like similar schemes in other urban areas, typically consisted of standardized, utilitarian apartment buildings. These buildings were characterized by their pragmatic design and uniformity. These housing schemes aim to create efficient and functional living spaces for residents, primarily the working class. While the sídliště architecture may not be aesthetically remarkable, it played a crucial role in accommodating the urban population's housing needs during the post-war period. The focus was on practicality, affordability, and efficiency in land use. The neighborhood was home to Alois Jirásek, a famous Czech author known for his retelling of ancient Czech myths and legends. In Wild, Old Czech Legends primarily focuses on retelling historical and mythological stories. There is also a lot of supernatural elements within them, One of the most notable of these elements in the book is the presence of prophecies and visions. Throughout the legends recounted in the book, the characters often receive prophecies or have mystical visions that play crucial roles in the unfolding of the stories. These prophecies and visions are supernatural elements that add an element of mysticism and foreknowledge to the narratives. In the legend of the Maiden's War, Princess Libusha possesses the gift of foresight. She is a seer who can foresee the future and foretells significant events, including the rise of the Primosled dynasty. Libusha's prophetic abilities are a supernatural element that drives the narrative and shapes the destiny of the characters and the land of Bohemian. The prophecies and visions are recurring motifs in the book and are indicative of the deep connection between the characters and the supernatural, emphasizing the role of fate and destiny in the stories. While the book is grounded in historical and cultural narratives, these supernatural elements add another dimension to the legends, which makes them all the more captivating for readers. Žižkov was also the home to Czech photographer Jan Saudek. Saudek was born in 1935 and is known for his distinctive and provocative photographic works. His photography is characterized by dreamlike and surreal qualities, which blends elements of fantasy and reality. Is juxtaposed with the raw and intimate subject matter, creating a unique tension and capturing the model. We are now headed into the Žižkovský tunnel, which connects Žižkov to Karlín, while Lower Žižkov currently is known to be a little bit more rough around the edges. Karlín is seen as the hip and upcoming district within Prague, home to many different startups, businesses, restaurants, and a lot of new developments as well. This tunnel was also home to many different bomb shelters. You can see the doors on the left-hand side. And a few years ago, I actually had the pleasure of going to a concert in one of these bomb shelters. And they had all the old dishes, cups, and mugs, lamps, carpets, everything inside them was like a time capsule back to the 1960s or 70s. And to get the door open, you actually rang the doorbell by touching these two wires together that were outside of the door. And somebody would come open the door, you'd go into the bomb shelter, and then get a beer, and listen to some music. This wasn't a venue that was open to the public often. It was a situation where a friend told me about it, and I went there. And the name of the band playing was Vichar, which means windstorm in Czech. And it was a noise band. And audience members could also scream into microphones or make noise as well. The other side of this tunnel actually says "Ne boy," which means don't be scared. Probably because it is a fairly long walking tunnel, urban tunnel. And both of these districts 20 years ago were considered to be pretty shady. And since then, they've become some of the most sought after places to live. Karlín especially. But the effects of Karlín are also spilling up through the other side of the tunnel, and all of Koněvova and Lower Žižkov is getting fixed up as well. This is a nice little garage cafe. It just actually was a garage that somebody is renting out as a garage, and they've set up a little cafe there. Pretty amazing spot. And this area has undergone considerable renovation in the last 20 years. There's a ton of new companies have moved in. It's very, very close to the center of Prague. And it's got basically everything that you could want within a district in terms of living. And since then, it's also become one of the most expensive places to buy real estate within Prague. The district began as a humble village close to the urban center of Prague, and its roots trace back to the 12th century when it was established as a small settlement along the banks of the Vltava River. In the early days, Karlín relied heavily on agriculture, with its fertile fields producing grain and produce for Prague. However, in the 19th century, Karlín underwent a transformation as industrialization swept across Europe. The district's proximity to the river and its burgeoning industry led to a rapid urbanization process, and factories and manufacturing facilities sprang up, attracting a growing population of industrial workers looking for jobs. This urban expansion continued well into the 20th century, making Karlín a hub for commerce and industry. Tragically, Karlín endured a devastating setback in 2002 when it was severely affected by the catastrophic floods that inundated parts of Europe. The district suffered extensive damage, with many buildings and businesses submerged in water. And since then, there's been a resurgence in the following years as the old buildings were restored and new developments emerged. The district currently is renowned for its diverse culinary scene, cultural venues, and thriving artistic communities. its historical transformation from a rural settlement to an industrial powerhouse, and its resurgence since the 2000 floods make Karlín a compelling microcosm of Prague's history. Coming up here on Sokolovská Street. Sokolovská is named after a falcon, and falconry has a rich history in the Czech Republic that dates back centuries. The tradition of falconry in the region has evolved over time, influenced by various rulers, cultural exchanges, and environmental changes. Falconry was first introduced to the Czech lands during the medieval period, likely in the 9th to 10th centuries. And initially, it was a pursuit of the nobility and the aristocracy. Czech rulers and nobles developed a keen interest in falconry, and it became a symbol of prestige and power. Records from this era show that falconry was not only a means of hunting, but also a form of entertainment and a display of wealth and social status. Falconry received significant royal patronage during the reign of Charles IV, the Holy Roman Emperor and King of Bohemia in the 14th century. Charles IV was an avid falconer and contributed to the development of falconry in the Czech lands, and he even wrote a book on falconry. The popularity of falconry waned during subsequent centuries due to changes in hunting practices, the decline of aristocracy, and the impact of wars. In the 20th century, falconry experienced a revival in the Czech lands, as it did in many other countries. And the Czech Falconry Club was established in 1968. Falconry also plays a role in conservation efforts in Czech Republic. It is recognized as an essential tool in the protection of endangered species, particularly birds of prey. Falconers often participate in captive breeding and release programs to bolster wild populations. This looks like an industrial area here, but it's also been revitalized. This was full of old, decrepit factories that have since been cleaned out. And right now, we'll walk through the Přístav 18600 beer garden. And it's a place I definitely recommend coming, because it's kind of hidden, out of the way. A lot of people don't know about it. Kind of built on a old school DIY ethic. They've built various stages around this area, including incorporating some of the old industrial waste that was left behind. But here we can see this tube that's been outfitted with some sort of bench inside of it that looks out onto the river. And down here is a platform they've built, also right on the banks of the Vltava. You could perform or just sit and look at the lake, look at the river. It's kind of nice how quiet it becomes, how quickly you can go from Sokolovska Street, which is very loud, and very quickly be on these little back trails, this beer garden area. Somebody's reserved this entire area here, and you can actually just reserve different benches or areas, and you can actually also get a barbecue, which I frequently do in the summers with friends. And I rent a barbecue, and they give you coals, and you just barbecue some food. To the left here you can see where they're selling the beer, but it's a little bit early today, even though a few people are out enjoying the nice weather this fall, early September day. There's another stage over there. And a couple other different big picnic tables, benches. But really a nice area, tucked away in Karlín. And you'll see as we're leaving here, it's right near this new bridge. And this bridge connects Karlín to Holešovice. So we began our journey in Žižkov. We walked through the Žižkovský tunnel. We arrived in Karlín. We're walking along the banks of the Vltava. And now we will cross the brand new bridge that goes to Holešovice. And this bridge was just built and finished a couple months ago. You can see, even though it's a Friday in the afternoon, there's not too many people on it. And it does afford some nice views of the castle as well, or just of the Vltava without all the noise all around it. So you'll see in a couple steps here, take a peek at the castle, and then I'll also take a peek at the other side as well. There's a little island down here to the left, and there's actually like a stadium there, like a little miniature stadium, and some tennis courts, different types of sport activities. But that island's been fixed up quite a bit as well, and people are just beginning to start using that too. And on the other side, we'll come out in Holešovice. In both Holešovice, Karlín, and Žižkov were all kind of similar in their industrial nature, and they've all undergone a considerable transformation in the last 2 decades. Way off in the distance, you can see the Prague Castle there. It's kind of amazing to see a bridge that's so clean and hasn't been tagged or anything. I noticed they used very, very smooth concrete to construct it, which leads me to believe they'll probably just buff off any graffiti that does pop up on it. Since it is so smooth, you can probably just blast off any paint on it. Prague has seen a lot of efforts to curtail graffiti in the last decade, with various anti-graffiti cleanup crews going through different districts and blasting off graffiti, although it is kind of a daunting task. One thing is, before the revolution in 1989, you wouldn't have seen a lot of graffiti on the streets of Prague. And now it's become somewhat ubiquitous. This area here is the Tržnica, which just means market. In this area used to be home to dozens and dozens and dozens of little booths selling mostly cheap items, imported sunglasses and soccer jerseys and these sorts of things. And it was frequently raided by the police because of supposed selling of black market goods of all sorts. And as you can see on the right here, it's currently being reconstructed as well. And all of the little markets are basically gone now. And they're being replaced by clubs, restaurants, artist studios. There are a couple remaining Vietnamese restaurants. That's one right there on the right. And we're also walking to one of the main buildings for Elza in Prague. And Elza is basically, well, it's kind of hard to describe what it is. It's kind of like an Amazon in Czech Republic. And you can get various electronics. They have their own system, but you can buy online and then just go to the store and pick it up. And there's various boxes around town where they'll deliver to as well. So thanks for walking with me today. Hope you enjoyed walking through different Prague neighborhoods. And if you're on a treadmill, hope you enjoyed the ride as well and learned a few new things about this city in Central Europe. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you like these types of videos, so we can continue making them. I really appreciate you watching, and as always, happy walking.